It's quite common for the netlist to include devices that aren't going to be placed on the board during assembly. For example, a circuit design might allow for several options, but only one of them is ever going to be fitted at a time. It's important for your boundary scan system to know of anything that's unfitted so that it can exclude them from its model of the circuit and remove their pins from test coverage statistics. XJ Developer can analyse all the board data that you've entered and suggest which devices should be marked as unfitted. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to set up the software so that those suggestions are as accurate as possible. XJ Developer can use three methods for this. The simplest is just to identify any components missing from the BOM. Alternatively, your BOM might have a fitted or unfitted category, in which case XJ Developer can use the contents of that column. Or your design data might have text like NF or not fitted inserted in one of its other fields. All of those can be used, and you just need to pick the methods that are best suited to the structure of your BOM. To get started, let's go back to the board screen, where you'll need to click on the Unfitted Rules icon. First of all, I'll demonstrate the method that looks for devices missing from the BOM. And you can select which BOM source to use: data found in the netlist, an external BOM file, or details extracted from schematic metadata. In my example, I'm going to ask it to look for devices missing from the external file, in which case a tick needs to go in here. You can use multiple sources by selecting more than one box. By the way, basing it on the BOM file that was used for manufacturing is often the best thing to do, because that's going to be the most accurate reflection of what was built. In this example, R11 now appears in the display because it's present in the netlist but doesn't appear in the BOM file. So that's one method to identify any devices that haven't been placed during assembly. But what if you've got a BOM file that has a column specifically to tag such devices? To use that data, you tick the next box down. Device matches to unfitted BOM pattern of the unfitted category. Of course, your company standard for what text to put in an unfitted column might be different to mine, so you may need to change what XJ Developer's searching for to make it work with your terminology. To see what I mean, let's look at a simple example. In this BOM file, the designer has flagged an unfitted device by putting a Y in a dedicated column. Assuming, of course, that you included that field in your import, XJ Developer can now search that BOM column for matching entries. Anything it finds will be displayed in the box at the bottom. You'll notice that nothing has popped up in that box yet, and that's because this BOM uses a Y to denote unfitted devices, whereas the project was set up to search for different text. So let's adjust what XJ Developer's looking for. Click the box entitled Edit Patterns to bring up the categories options, and change the drop-down menu to Device Selector. This screen shows all the patterns the software searches for at different times, but the one we're interested in right now is the bottom one for unfitted devices. So highlight that row and go to the entry for the unfitted column. You can see that it's looking for fields that contain the phrase not fitted, so it needs changing. If you click in the cell and then go to the bottom of the dialog, you'll see that it's selected the unfitted category ready for you. Click on regex and you can alter the search expression. If you need help using regular expressions, you can find more information in the XJ Tag help files, together with some useful links. Just search for regex and you'll get there. In this example, I'm going to change it to an expression that will return a match whenever it finds any text in that field. You can check that your expression is correct by using this test feature. Put in some text and it'll tell you if it matches. Click OK once you're sure it's correct, and OK again on the next screen. And you'll now see that it found the resistor that was flagged as unfitted in the BOM field. But what if you've got a fitted column rather than an unfitted one? In that case, when you import the BOM, you should still map the unfitted category to that column. Don't worry that it says unfitted rather than fitted, that won't affect what happens. Follow the same steps as before to set the regex. Remember that you're now searching for any device with an N in that field. This time you can't use the expression that searches for any text because the column has both N's and Y's. You're therefore going to have to change the search expression so that it looks for just an N. And finally, after you've clicked OK a couple of times, you can see that it has successfully picked out R3 from the BOM as not being fitted. The final scenario we ought to consider is when you're identifying unfitted devices by putting a flag in one of the other BOM fields, such as in this example where description is being used. This time we have no unfitted column, but instead we're going to have to search for the information among the description data. In the dialog box, you'll need to select the final option, Device matches to any other BOM field patterns of the unfitted category. When you come to check the search pattern it's using, it's now the description field you'll need to look at. So click on the Unfitted Devices row as before, but this time select the description column before clicking the regex button. In this instance, it looks like the default setting is fine. It will find any device with text such as NP or NF in that column. But it will ignore entries like 1 nanofarad. Again, you can see that XJ Developer has identified R3 as unfitted. You've now set up XJ Developer to identify any unfitted devices, and provided you maintain your BOM format, it will work consistently for future board revisions. This series of videos, however, still has 2 small topics to cover, and in the final session, I'll show you how to reuse a board setup between different projects and what to do when you have a PCB that's only used to test other boards. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please subscribe for more and leave a like or a comment below.